He told me, "Go to your room, old lady," so I let him think he won. The night my son-in-law told me to go to my room like a child, I didn't argue. I didn't yell, and I definitely didn't cry. Instead, I quietly stood up, walked past him, and went to my bedroom. But what he didn't know, what neither he nor my daughter realized, was that I had just made the most important decision of my life. Because while they were celebrating in the living room that night, laughing, watching TV, and talking about what they were going to do after I was gone, I was sitting alone in my bedroom holding a document that would destroy everything they thought they owned. You see, they believed the house belonged to them now. They believed I was weak, old, easy to control. But the truth? The truth was something they would only discover 30 days later when the police knocked on the door, and by then it was already far too late. My name is Eleanor Parker. I'm 71 years old. For most of my life, I worked as a librarian in Portland, Oregon. My husband, Michael, passed away 8 years ago. After he died, the house felt empty, too quiet. So when my daughter Rachel asked if she and her husband Kyle could move in just for a few months, I said yes. Of course I said yes. She was my daughter. That was 4 years ago, and little by little, things began to change. At first, everything seemed normal. Rachel cooked dinner sometimes. Kyle helped mow the lawn. They told me they were saving money for their own place. But after a year, the small changes started. Kyle began calling the living room his space. He started rearranging furniture. Then he changed the Wi-Fi password. One day, I realized something strange. I was living in my own house, but asking permission to use the kitchen. That evening, I was watching an old movie on TV, the same movie Michael and I used to watch together every Christmas. The house was quiet, peaceful. Then the door slammed open. Kyle walked in carrying fast food bags. Rachel followed behind him laughing. Kyle looked at the TV. Then he grabbed the remote. Click. The screen went black. He dropped onto the couch and turned toward me. "Go watch TV in your room, old lady," he said. "I'm putting the game on." For a second, I thought I had misheard him, but Rachel didn't say a word. She just sat down next to him. That silence was louder than anything he could have said. I stood up slowly. Kyle had already switched to the sports channel. They were laughing, talking, acting like I wasn't even there. I walked down the hallway to my bedroom, closed the door, and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. Inside was a folder Michael and I had prepared years ago, important papers, insurance, savings, and the property deed. Only one name was written there, Eleanor Parker. Mine, not Rachel's, not Kyle's, mine. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at that paper for a long time. Then I picked up my phone. The man who answered was Daniel Hartman, a lawyer Michael used to work with. "Eleanor," he said warmly, "it's been years." "I need your help," I told him, and then I explained everything, the disrespect, the control, the way my own daughter had watched it happen. Daniel stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said something very simple. "Legally, they have no rights to that house." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said slowly, "you can ask them to leave." The next morning, I didn't mention anything. I made breakfast, smiled, acted normal. Kyle barely looked at me. Rachel scrolled on her phone. For the next 2 weeks, I stayed quiet, observing, preparing. Daniel handled the paperwork. All I had to do was wait. One night, I walked past the kitchen and heard them whispering. Kyle's voice was low. "We just need her to move to a nursing home." Rachel sounded nervous. "She won't agree to that." Kyle laughed. "Then we convince her she has no choice." My heart felt like it stopped. They weren't just disrespecting me. They were planning to remove me from my own house. And that was the moment I stopped feeling guilty. 3 weeks later, a man in a gray suit knocked on the door. Kyle answered. Yeah? The man handed him an envelope. You've been formally served. Kyle frowned. Served with what? Eviction notice. Rachel gasped. Kyle laughed at first, then he opened the envelope, and the laughter stopped. Within minutes, my phone started ringing. Kyle, Rachel, Kyle again. I didn't answer. Finally, Rachel sent a message. Mom, please call me. I waited an hour. Then I replied with one sentence. We'll talk tomorrow. We met at Daniel Hartman's office. Kyle stormed into the room furious. You can't do this. Daniel calmly placed the property deed on the table. Yes, he said, she can. Kyle's face turned red. We've lived there 4 years. Daniel nodded. Without paying rent. Then he opened another folder. Inside were financial records, bills, expenses, every dollar I had spent supporting them. Rachel slowly realized the truth. Kyle had never saved money. He had been spending it. Then Daniel said something that shocked everyone. Mr. Bennett also opened a credit line using your mother's information. Rachel looked confused. What? Daniel slid the document across the table. Kyle had secretly taken $48,000 in loans under my name. The room went silent. Rachel stared at him. You said that money was from your business. Kyle said nothing, and in that moment, Rachel finally understood who she had married. 30 days passed. Kyle moved out first. No goodbye, no apology, just gone. Rachel stayed a little longer. Then, one evening, she came to my room quietly. I'm sorry, Mom. I looked at her for a long moment. The same little girl I once carried to school, now standing there with tears in her eyes. I opened the door and hugged her, but I also told her something she would never forget. This house will always have room for family, but never again for people who forget what respect means. Today, the house is peaceful again. The living room is mine. The television plays softly in the evening, and sometimes I remember the night Kyle told me, "Go to your room, old lady." Funny thing is, I did go to my room, but that was the moment he unknowingly started packing his bags. Because the people who think they control everything usually forget one important detail. The quiet ones are often the ones holding the real power.